Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to another episode of Live with Weiss. These past couple weeks have been absolutely amazing. We are filled to the brim with interviews. So get ready. We got a lot of amazing guests coming in, talking about all different sorts of spectrums within business, work, and within life. Now, I know why you're all here. And we're ready to get going. I've got a special guest today. His second appearance on the show. A good friend and obviously wise all around. I love to welcome back the one, the only, Lincoln. Lincoln, welcome back, my brother.
Thank you, Matt. It's good to be back.
It is amazing to have you back. There was a lot of great feedback from the last session that we had about passion. For everybody out there, be sure to check out Lincoln's book. It's available on Amazon, on his website. We'll make sure to share all that information out. But today is interesting. Lincoln and I had a conversation a couple weeks ago, and you'll notice the title that's there. So, Lincoln, I just got to throw this out there to you and allow you to share it with the audience. Why on earth did we name this session Less Reaction, More Recalculation?
Well, Matt, I don't know if you're old enough to remember before the time of cell phones and MapQuest, well, not MapQuest, but Google Maps and Waze, when you're going to making a trip where you've never been before, you put the address in there and it gives you directions step by step. What a technology, man. I think it's one of the best technology invented in this century. Anyway, the day before the phone, I had a TomTom. Mm-hmm. I'm sure some people might remember what's a TomTom. And it worked just like Google Maps, but it was not on your phone. And at that time, I was still working with Cox, and I had to go to Charlotte, North Carolina to do a workshop. And the first time I went, I flew, but it took me an hour from my home to get to South Atlanta to the airport and then go through TSA and all of that. And so I said, wait a minute, I can drive. And so the second time I decided, I'm going to try this. I'm going to drive. So I put my TomTom on and I put the address in, and we going up the road. The lady is keeping me company. She's got such a sweet voice, keeping me company, and alert. And so we take I-85 and we're heading north, and then she says, exit 69. I know some people, when they hear the number 69, they all start thinking all kind of thoughts in their head, but there is an exit 69 on 85. I want to tell you, I didn't make that up. There is an exit 69 on 85. So I'm going, the first time, I don't know, I exit 69. Matt, come to find out, exit 69 is a loop. It goes around and comes right back on 85. Okay, I didn't know.
Back. Ah.
Yeah. So the second time I'm going, I put it again. But when she tell me exit 69, I know I can keep going. So I just kept going. I know I'm listening. Let me hear what this lady is going to tell me. And this is what I'm thinking. The reactive mode in me is thinking, oh, she's going to say, Lincoln, didn't you hear me? I told you to exit 69. What's the matter with you? You told me where you wanted to go. I'm taking you where you want to go. Oh, I know it. And you're going, come on, man. What did she say? She didn't say that. She said, recalculating. And, oh, my God, what a life lesson, Matt. I hit myself on the face. And I said, I was like, what a life lesson. Less reacting, more recalculating. We are naturally reactive people. Somebody says something to us, we want to say something worse to them. Somebody bad drive us, we want to show them the finger. We want to pop the horn, and we're instinctively reactive people. That day I learned to hit the pause button and turn down the reaction. There are times, of course, you have no choice. You're going to have to react.
Right.
But That's in emergency situations, but in life situations, hit the pause button and choose what's the best response. What's the best response? That has helped me personally to reduce a lot of stress in my life, to help me to make better decisions, to help me to say the things that I want to say. You know, how many times we've said something and I can't believe I said that.
It happens all the time. I mean, I think about it in just regular life, right? Where, you wish you had the right rebuttal to something.
Yeah,
Right?
in the moment.
I wish I would have said it this way. You think about, you're driving in your car, say you got into an argument or something like that with somebody and you drive away. I feel like everyone can relate to this, but they're in their car and they're saying it out loud because a car is a safe place, right? The windows are closed. It's almost like your own sound box. And you're just saying it out loud and you're rephrasing to a point where it's like, they'll never rebuttal if I would have said this.
Yeah. Think about that pause. Hit that pause button.
Mm-hmm.
And then analyze what's the best response. And in life, we do this subconsciously. I've also learned when the subconscious and the conscious come together, woohoo, look at what happens. Amazing things happen. When the subconscious and the conscious comes together, amazing things happen. But it takes practice. It takes practice and it takes intention. It takes practice and it takes intention. So we've learned to hit the pause button, analyze the situation, then choose what's the best response, not only for me, but for everybody around me. Not only for me, but for everybody around me. What's the best response? So normally, without thinking subconsciously, we automatically go to three major responses. Okay. We're either going to fight against something or fight for it. We're either going to choose to flight, walk away, or we're going to freeze. Don't say anything. Now, when you start becoming intentional and choosing, is this something I need to fight for? Is this something I need to fight against? What would be the consequence? Would it have a good result, a good outcome, or negative outcome? Take, for example, what happened in Washington a couple of months ago when Matt, I don't know for sure. I didn't do any research, but I've seen some of the interviews of the people who regretted not that they went, but regretted what took place. Mm-hmm. Because they did not go to riot, they went to protest. But there were 2 or 3% of the people who went to riot. And the other people got there and got caught up in the emotions of the situation. And without thinking, without hitting the pause button, they just follow suit. You heard the statement, monkey see, monkey do?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And think about it. You smile at people, they're going to smile back at you. You frown at people, they're going to frown back at you. We go to a ball game and we're sitting in the middle of the row. Nobody makes an announcement and say, okay, all the people in row 14, we're going to do the wave. The people on the right hand will start first. Somebody just get up and start doing it and everybody just follow without even thinking about it. And right. It's a good feeling to do. But then most times, we need to learn to hit that pause button. Choose the best response. And you see, our emotions, the emotional intelligence gurus will tell you 80% of how we behave is impacted by how we feel. People who study this, who've had their emotional intelligence profiles done, will tell you managing your emotions is a skill. It can be learned and it can be practiced. And when we learn to manage our emotions, we make less mistakes. We have less regrets. We have less stress. We have less stress in our life. Remember that TV show? I think it was Bringing Up Family or All in the Family.
Family Matters.
all was family matters. And there was this one guy, and one of his favorite lines was, "Did I do that?" You know, only
The infamous Steve Urkel, everybody.
Steve Urkel, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Did I do that? You can't believe it. Even only last night, I was looking at one of my favorite shows, NCIS, with Mark Harmon and Gibbs, and he did something, and his director was saying, "What were you thinking?" And he said, "I wasn't thinking." He got angry, and the anger overcome him. See,
Right.
When we let the emotions control us, we do stupid. When we let the emotions control us, we do stupid.
I think what's interesting, Lincoln, when you say this, is that our triggers are these reactions are impacted by our emotional impact, right? And you're not saying don't have emotions. Emotions are so important, but understanding what those emotions are and having intentional moments to avoid negative circumstances, I think, is one of the most important things about this, right? Is to be aware, to understand. And I love that word, emotional intention, so that you have control, because like you said, there's three things: you fight, you flight, or you freeze. And if you actually can pause, like you say, and take a moment and say, is this the right time to fight? Is this the right time to fly? Or is this the right time to freeze and listen? I can make a stronger, more impactful solution for myself. And more importantly, because when this is happening, it's usually with another person or more that are around you in those times, especially like when you're in meetings. But yeah. Meetings are a big one. And I know, Lincoln, we've talked about stories, and for me personally, this really hits home because way back, I was not aware of my emotions when they were triggered. They just happened. And that's a couple things. One, I wasn't thinking about my intentions. I'm from New Jersey, so it is in our blood to actually rebuttal right away. We have to do it. But also, I didn't know the ramifications from the others and myself, because what I found is as I left a meeting and my reactions impacted the meeting itself without pausing, I noticed people were impacted in a negative way. I noticed for myself as well when I would walk away, just like what we talked about earlier, getting in a car and thinking about your rebuttals. Did I say the right thing? Could I have said it differently? Could I have done any of that? But if I would have taken the time to actually stop and think, which action should I take? Don't react right away, but think about how I could approach this the best way for an entire group within a meeting. That was so important. Sometimes you have to stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes there is no solution in a meeting, and it may be you just got to get out of the meeting. And people need to recognize that, and you could be polite about it. And sometimes that freeze can be more about listening and holding a pause for just a little bit longer to gain that respect and gain your train of thought so that somebody else can start to listen as well, because there's a conversation that's happening. And I've learned that over time, and it was one of the hardest things because my reactions were usually negative. And I learned that pausing and holding it in for just a moment, not bottling it, but holding it, allowed me to think rapidly about X, Y, Z. Which course of action should I take?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's what, less reacting, more recalculation is all about.
Yeah.
And if we could always remember that, am I reacting or should I recalculate before I respond? Take control. Take control. We We human beings are the only creation of any living organism that have been gifted with the power of free will to choose. Many people have not discovered that yet, and they let circumstances run their lives instead of choosing how they respond to the circumstances. You know, you were talking about the tom-tom. Most people, you know, they know how smart they are. And look at our education system. Our education system is focused on how to read, how to write, how to do math, how to do science, knowledge base. And then the purpose of education is to prepare us and our kids for life. How much relationship management is taught in schools? How much conflict resolution is taught in schools? How much empathy is taught in school? What's the meaning of integrity? How much of that is taught in school? What about communication? You know, what about building trust and building bonds? How much of that is taught in schools? We learn that by trial and error, and we learn that from our parents, from observing other people. Think about what the impact of if our education system could be a little more focused on emotional intelligence and not so much on intelligence quotient. And we need it. We need it. You know, Warren Barris, who is a renowned author on leadership, he said this, and I love this quote. He said, emotional intelligence is much more powerful than IQ. To determining who emerges as a leader. IQ is a threshold competence. We need it.
Right.
You need it, but it doesn't make you a star. Emotional intelligence can. You know, and we've all worked with different leaders, and they have very little people skills. They have a lot of knowledge skill. I worked with a guy once who told me I'm a geek. He said he's telling me that he is a geek. No people skills, you know. And I remember when I worked at my last company, we had a very charismatic leader. People love this man, you know, and we all who work, you know, when he met you for the first time, he got your name. The next time he remembered, I don't know how he did it. Well, he was intentional about it, and he called you by name. A simple thing like that. When he walked into a room, the room lit up, and you might know who I'm talking about. And then he resigned, or was asked to resign, and we got a new guy come in. It was like night and day.
It's so fascinating how the balance is so important between EQ and IQ.
And IQ, yeah.
You have to have both. And
a balance.
I think some people try to favor one or the other when really you should have both. You need to have a great balance of it. You can still be intelligent in certain areas. You're not going to be, if you can try to focus on a few things and be passionate about those, but at the same time having that EQ level to balance it out. I agree with you 100%. That is leadership in a nutshell. But also that EQ also helps with that less reaction, more recalculation as well.
Yeah, then you mentioned it earlier. It takes awareness. It starts with awareness, being aware of what your triggers are. And our human body is a powerful mechanism. How many times have you walked into a situation and you don't feel right? You don't feel comfortable. You know, it's like people say the hair on the back of your head is you're fearful. Now you have a choice. Do I stay here or do I walk away? If you ignore the feeling, 99% of the time, you're going to end up in trouble. You're going to get hurt. But if you respond to that feeling and you walk away, you will save yourself. You might never know in this lifetime what you saved yourself from, but you will get to know it when that time comes. But respond to your the feelings, your
Mhm.
feelings, respond to it. Don't react to it, respond to it. It's a big difference between responding and reacting.
I think with that, I think people that are watching this, and first of all, unconsciously, they're now becoming conscious of that. Oh, so what are my reactions and how? And they're probably thinking at the same time. I know people are watching this. It's just like, I can relate to these scenarios. This happens to me because it happens to everybody.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think what's important, Lincoln, for sure, is like how can people begin to take that unconsciousness of awareness when it comes to these reactions of and triggers and become conscious of them, because they need to become conscious so then they could start to practice and become and bring that, what you refer to, I love it, pause with intention. I think that's so important. How can they become aware of these things in the first place?
Well, Matt, the first thing is to take note, and everybody know what their pet peeves are. Everybody know what makes them angry, what makes them anxious, what makes them happy, what makes them sad. Everybody knows that. And just to give you a little example, one of the things that really used to upset me a lot earlier, before I learned about social and emotional intelligence profile, was people who driving down the road and they want to change their lane and they don't turn on their signal. Or they want to exit and they don't turn on their signal. Or you come to a four-way stop and the person on the other upper, they don't turn on the signal to tell you they're going left or they're going right. And I used to scream at these people. I said, man, that thing there is not an ornament, it's got a use, it's got a purpose, use it.
An ornament, I love that.
And then the other thing that used to upset me is, like, I'm driving down the highway and somebody's coming down the feed and I let them in and they don't even wave. I used to shout at these people and I said, well, your mama didn't tell you how to say thank you. And then one day I had a discussion with myself. I said, Lincoln, that person is not even hearing you, That person is gone. And look at you. Your heart is racing. You're getting angry and all of that. You're hurting yourself, son.
Yeah.
You're hurting yourself. So now I hit the pause button and this is how I respond. I wave. And I might even blow them a kiss or something. And I will say in my mind, thank you for the opportunity for doing some good to you. Thank you for the opportunity for doing something good for you. We need to take control of how we manage, because we hurt ourselves.
Yeah.
More. We hurt ourselves more. Like I learned this from my wife. The dirty dishes in the sink upset me, especially when I did not put it in the sink. But when we have teenage kids in the house, they don't care, and you tell them 100 times. So I said, wait a minute, it's easier for me and the dishwasher is right there. Just put it in the dishwasher, Lincoln, and keep calm, put your stress down, find something positive and productive to do.
There we go.
Simple thing. Taking control, Matt, taking control, being aware. And there are tools. There are tools that can help us to become more aware. People who are very intentional about their personal health. You see, there is physical health and then there is mindset health.
Right.
Your personality health. What's your personality? People, this Maya Angelou said, I've learned that people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. People will never forget how you made them feel. And buddy, it doesn't take a lot to make somebody feel good about themselves. Good morning. How are you today? Hey, good to see you. And I love it when I go to the supermarket And most people in the supermarket, they have a name tag. Most people ignore that. I look at the name tag and I call them by name, and I take it a step further. Am I saying your name right? Am I saying your name right? It's amazing when you call somebody by name.
Right.
It's so sweet. I love it when dealing with customer service online. I make sure I get their name and talk. Every 3 or 4 words, I will say Matt. I'll say Matt. I'll repeat their name. It makes them feel good. You get extra service, and you get
extra service.
Service with a smile. It does not take much to make people feel good about themselves, and you feel good about yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
I do it all the time. I do the same exact thing. And I always like to get people's names, even when hopefully very soon going to restaurants. I always like to know, my the waiter's name, right? Whoever it is that's coming by, I always like to refer to them by their name, just so that they're the connection. They're the ones that are handling my food. They're the ones where, besides the group that you're with, they're the other person that's interacting with you. You don't want to ignore somebody that's part of the interaction. You want to make them a part of the interaction. So that way, you can avoid anything that may happen in the future, or something can be taken care of right away. And something just as simple as, being kind and throwing out a name when it's there. That's it's such a small thing that can make a gigantic impact in that moment.
Yeah, and think about when you go to your dry cleaner and they call you by name. They don't even need a ticket.
Everyone walks in with their hands on their hips, like, this is my place.
It is so cool, and it doesn't cost you anything. That's the cool thing. It doesn't cost you a thing, and you're doing so much good. It amazes me how people can be living in a condominium set and they don't know their next door neighbor. They don't know their name. They don't have their phone number. I always make sure that I know the people who are to the right and at least at the minimum, to the right and to the left of me. So much so, my neighbors, when they go in on vacation, they give me a key to their house in case of emergency. It takes a lot of trust, takes a lot of trust. But
absolutely.
To get people to trust you, you have to be trustworthy. And that's part of the, emotional intelligence profile. Trust, building trust. Yeah, it's a great to get to know not only how smart I am, but how emotionally smart I am. Emotional intelligence. And I tell you, if more and more people will become more aware of their emotions and take more control and manage their emotions, we will have less crime in the world. We will have less stress in the world. We'll have less conflict in the world. We will have more productivity in the world. We'll have people make better decisions, in their personal life and in their business life and in their church life, wherever they are. If people were just, if we would just stop arguing and have discussions and have debate. I can't believe in these times that people can't get around the round table and talk about something instead of to get something done today. It seems that if we got to go march and protest and threaten other people, why can't we get together and talk about it?
The idea of trust, I think, when you were bringing this all together, I think is super important, because when you establish trust, right? You mentioned one thing for sure. You should probably ask yourself, are you trustworthy? Like asking yourself, right? Because if you're not trustworthy to begin, no one has ever, you probably never asked yourself and be like, I'm not trustworthy. Or maybe there are some people that may answer that, but are you trustworthy? Because in order to establish trust, that person that you're speaking with, that group that you're speaking with, where there could be a debate that's going to happen. There could be a conversation that's going to show some sort of conflict between, a project that may happen or something within the family and a decision that needs to be made. And you're trying to come together to come with a cohesive decision. something that helps with that is that trusting mechanism, right? If there's some sort of trust in there, and it starts with you. You can be, if you know you're trustworthy, that's half the battle. Congratulations. Most people, like, you're always trying to figure out where the beginning is. Start with yourself. Start with, are you trustworthy? If you are, it's like, cool. Now I don't have to worry about me. People will be able to trust me. Can I establish that trust now? Because I know I'm trustworthy. I think it's so important. And that's what can create that quality conversation, that can create those moments of recalculations when that conversation is happening, because someone might look at the other side of the table. If they trust you, they'll give you the moment to think about it. They won't question it. They won't come at you. And I think that's so cool. It's such a cool way of putting it, is that trustworthiness. And are you trustworthy?
Matt, the thing about it, Matt, too many people crucified today between two thieves, yesterday and tomorrow. They're meeting with somebody today and they're remembering all the wrong things that person did to them before.
Mm-hmm.
And what is forgiveness? You know, you forgive the person and you give them, everybody deserves a second chance. Some people deserve more. You know, like for me, when I'm dealing with a stranger, it's once bitten, twice shy, 3 times goodbye. If it's my family, well, they get 70 times 7 chances, you know? But the thing about, I've seen a lot, is like in sales, I've been in sales a lot, where a salesperson will have a meeting and it went totally terrible. And the next meeting, they take all the emotions of that negative meeting and carry it with them into, and then they want, what, I'm having a bad day. They let one situation mess up their whole day. We got to learn to compartmentalize, separate, separate people and treat everyone, every situation as a separate individual situation. See, the thing about Matt, people, emotional intelligence is about behavior.
Right.
People don't know what we're thinking. They don't know what's in our heart. They don't know how smart we are. They judge us based on our behavior. And the cool thing about behavior is a learned skill, and it can be unlearned and learn new skills. I picked up golf at age 50.
Congratulations.
I picked up golf at age 50, but I was able to transfer some of my skills from playing cricket to the golf game. Transfer the skills. How are we made? Are we human beings? We have, first is our genetics, and we have no control over our genetics. I'm brown skin. I have no control over that. I didn't choose that. I didn't choose my parents. I have no control over that. I have adopted, my mother's genes are in me. She was a skinny, 90-something pound lady. Her genes was in me, but also her morals and her values. Her morals and her values, I learned as a child, watching her, how she behaved, when her neighbors were sick, she would cook and take food over to them until I got big enough so she can send me with the food, kind of deal. Take me to church, Sunday school as a baby, kind of deal, or genetics. And people I'm sure many of you people on our show today people say, hey, you're just like your mom, or you're just like your dad, kind of deal. That's our genetics. I mean, who controls the color of our eyes? Genetics. Whether we get bored early or late in life, genetics, we have no control over that.
I feel the genetics. So everyone that always sees these videos, this hat does cover my genetics of no hair.
Yeah.
But the genetics also somehow shaped it down to here, to the beard. And this is why you have this luscious mane here at this very moment.
And some people would envy that because they can't have it. It's genetic. And we make the most of it. We accept it as it is. That's something right. You can't change your genetics, but your personality. The psychologists will tell you our personalities start developing from age 0 to self, and that's when our morals, our values are established and ingrained in us. Our personality is impacted by the culture we grew up in. Think about that. As you said earlier, you're a guy from Jersey, and you've heard about the New York Minute, you know, and people brand people based on, oh, those people from California, or those people from the Midwest. You know, in the state of Indiana, they are known as the friendly, the Hoosiers kind of deal. So, the culture.
Right.
I grew
What
up.
you're surrounded.
I grew up on an island. Everybody knew everybody. Everybody was everybody's uncle or aunt, kind of deal. You know, we did not. You could not call an adult without saying Mister,
Right.
because you would get a licking from your mom or your dad. You know, respect from a tender age in life. Culture impacts our personality, and then our genetics and our personality is what impacts how we behave. What impacts how we behave? The environment that we live in. Isn't it amazing how quickly we can adjust to an environment? And we have that choice to adjust, to adapt to an environment. I remember when the first city I lived in the United States, coming from Trinidad and Tobago, was Miami. Everybody drive like crazy in Miami. I learned early that when you come to the light, when you get green, you got to wait and let 3 cars run the red light and then go. You know, and
that's crazy.
so then I got promoted, relocated to Houston. It was a totally different pace.
Right.
Everybody was waving. Everybody, you know, pleasant people. People were driving courteously. They would let you in, kind of deal. And I mean, I was in a little culture shock too when I was behind this pickup truck and I see about 6 rifles on a rack, kind of deal. Say, wait, welcome to the Wild Wild West. But Matt, the people were so nice.
Yeah.
You know, and helpful. My neighbor used to cut my lawn.
That's crazy.
It was amazing environment, culture. And again, how, like when you, right now, you're not living in New Jersey anymore, but when you go back to your hometown, how you immediately reinsert yourself in that culture.
You have to. I distinctly remember every time after it's going over the bridge. Usually I'm traveling from Pennsylvania to get into Jersey, and you see the sign that says New Jersey, welcome to New Jersey. And then you see the sign for the turnpike, and all of a sudden a trigger hits like that. And all of a sudden I can switch my brain into a different mode where it's fast, it's quick. You're not. And here's the funny thing. It gets a bad rap, right? Because it's an aggressive way of going about things. But in the end, it's a respect as well. There's a lot of respect, but a lot of aggression. So, you know, you could, if you're hyper aware of the culture that you embedded yourself in, right? Like you said, you're in Miami. It's a little bit different, a little bit more fast paced. You go to Houston, you know, people are people, right? There's always going to be nice people. There's always going to be different types of people, no matter what. But culturally, you start to understand the different tweaks that they have from another culture, right? Midwest to West Coast to East Coast, even going to Europe, to APAC, like everything's just a little bit different. But I love the fact that you're aware of it and that you can see the people, because people are people.
Oh yeah,
that's so important. But you're aware of those cultural nuances. And what's funny is we talk about culture, but culture can be anything. It could be a location, it could be a mindset, it could be anything. And as long as people are going into that with that awareness, it feels good. You can adjust your own personality to fit the needs of what's going on there so that you are aware and now you're adapting.
Also, Matt, you know, especially in the business world, I've seen how some companies have actually built a culture. Because if you don't interact and you don't be intentional of developing the culture in your place of business or your church or your organization that you would like to be branded with, it's just going to evolve. People are going to do their own thing. Now look at the fast food business. They're all selling fast food, but there is one particular fast food chain, their culture. And you know the Chick-fil-A culture. You go there and my pleasure, my pleasure, my pleasure. You hear it all the time, and it's meaningful, and they're smiling everybody, and they seem to be happy to serve you. It's a culture that was intentional about building. They build that culture, and it's part of the training.
Yeah.
It's part of the training, so it can be learned. Behavior can be learned. Behavior can be learned, but we got to be intentional and choose which behavior we want to learn, and
Exactly.
what will work best for us.
And I assume part of that behavior, going right back to our title of less reaction, more calculation, is the behavior in which we present ourselves in recalculating to our reactions.
Man, yesterday in my Rat Tuesday tip, it was about what do you do when life knocks you down? And it can be a verbal knockdown.
Sure.
It can be a response. And I think about a boxer. An amateur boxer, when he or she gets knocked down, they want to get back up as fast as possible. They want to get back up at the count of 2 or 3, and everybody is shouting, get up, get up, get up. But a professional, smart boxer stays down and use that time to recharge, recuperate, reset, recalculate. And then at 8 or 9, then they get up stronger and ready to fight again. Life is going to knock us down. Life is going to knock us down. And we got to use that time not to focus on what knocked us down, focus on how can we recover, how can we recalculate this situation and do better, and wait for the right time to get back in the game. Look at in sports, baseball, basketball. Well, not baseball, they don't call timeout in baseball, but basketball and football, they call it. Why does the coach call a timeout? Because they're not doing what they were coached to do. They're not behaving how they were coached to behave. And he might sense, oh, my guys are getting tired. I need to give them a breather.
Right.
Life, we human beings, we tend to get on a treadmill and we going, and we get burnt out. And we wonder why, how come you did not stop to recalculate, to recharge, to take a breather. That's so important in our lives.
I think in that and by the way, when you went going back to that boxing reference, it's recalculate, recuperate, reset. It's all those things are even encompassed in the recalculation, which is so cool. Like they all come together because you're changing the strategy, your own personal behavior, your own strategy to your behavior in which you're approaching it. I really love that correlation there.
Oh yeah. Choice. It comes right back to choice. Comes right back to choice and choosing the best response to situations. All the time. Being aware of your triggers. I can't repeat that too much. Being aware, because when you are aware of your triggers, then you're better equipped to manage your behavior. When you're aware of your triggers, you're better equipped to manage your behavior. And when you have a tool like a social and emotional intelligence profile, it's like having a road map for life.
What is this profile that comes up? Because it correlates to what we're talking about. Because a lot of times there's a lot of thoughtfulness that we're discussing, but there's actually real tools that can help. There's the data piece, right?
The developer of the social and emotional intelligence profile, her name is Dr. Laura Belston, and her definition of social and emotional intelligence is the ability to be aware of our own emotions and those of others in the moment, and to use the information to manage ourselves and manage our relationships.
What is
The
it? What is?
tool,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
the tool is made up of 26 components. And
Okay.
the 26 components are divided into 4 segments. So the first segment is self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second segment is self-management. The third segment is other awareness or social awareness. And the fourth segment is relationship management. So I can be aware of my emotions. I can be doing a good job of managing my behavior. But what does that leave me is I live in half of my life because most of my life I am interacting with people
Right. Yeah.
all the time. I'm interacting with people all the time. A relationship that's not managed is going to end. It's going to crash. You're not going to get the fulfillment from that relationship. It takes management. It takes intention to manage the relationship. And we have long-term relationships, we have short-term relationships, we have moment relationship. You meet somebody for a moment, it's a relationship.
Sure.
Yeah. When I was much younger in my speaking, I would ask people, what do you want people to remember you for when you die? What do you want them to say in your obituary? And then one day again, windshield time driving, I said, Lincoln, what a stupid question you've been asking these people. When you die, you can't even hear what they're saying. Now I ask people, what do you want people to say about you when you say goodbye? What do you want people to think and say about you when you hit that send button on that text or that email? And is it important to you? I've heard one of the components in the self-management section is integrity. And when you and I were talking the other day, we said, both of us, we've never met a human being who said to us, oh, Lincoln, I don't have any integrity.
No one has ever, I've never heard someone say, I have no integrity.
Right. A lot of people claim to have integrity and they put on an integrity, it's a mask, because I've learned a simple definition of integrity from a guy named Alan Fine in his book, You Already Know How to Be Great. And he said, he gave us an acronym, say, do, co. Say, do, co. Say what you're going to do. Do what you said you're going to do and communicate when you can't. Because you might have all good intentions, something happened. Like yesterday, you and I were supposed to meet at 3:00, right? I got stuck on the road. It was raining, a wreck kind of deal. So I didn't just leave you hanging. I called and said, hey, man, I'm running a couple of minutes late.
Right.
Release the tension, my own tension and your tension. Where's this guy kind of deal? How rude, So integrity is if more people would do what they say they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
But many people, they make promises just to get away.
That's true.
Yeah.
Just to fly off.
And you've heard the statement, your word is your bond, kind of deal. But a lot of people, they don't have any bond. Oh my God. So and that's in self-management. In one of the components in other awareness is empathy. Empathy. And empathy is not just about feeling sorry for people. Anybody can feel sorry for people, but it's also about doing something about it.
Yeah.
And it can be just being a listening ear to a friend or a colleague. It can be just saying a prayer for that person and letting them know I'm praying for you. It can be just a hug. Empathy, caring about people. One of my pet peeves is people who drive up into the parking lot, open their door, and drop garbage on the floor and drive off. And
I know that one, yeah.
I used to get mad at those people. And then I said, well, again, they're gone. Now I pick up the garbage and find a garbage can and put it in there. This is, my city. You messing with my city,
Right.
But I care about my city. When people, when we ask people why you don't give good service, they don't care. They don't care. It's a job.
I'm going right back to job or a career, right?
Caring is empathy. It's part of empathy.
Yeah.
Caring, empathy. And that's one of the components of social awareness. Now, in relationship management, guess what the number one component is? I'll tell you. Communication.
Communication?
Communication, man.
Oh, man, it's so important.
And then when the program describes communication, the first word they use to describe communication is listening. And I do a 10-second effective listening workshop, and it goes like this. Look how the Lord designed us. 2 ears, 1 mouth, which is a subtle indication that we should listen twice as much as we speak. Listening is active, is not passive. Hearing is passive.
Right.
Listening is active.
Just remember that, everybody. 2 ears, 1 mouth. The calculation then returns. Listen twice as much as you speak. I love that. That is that's gold. That is 100% gold, Lincoln.
Man, it's so cool, and to have your profile. I was certified in this program back in 2013. I've done hundreds of profiles, and so far, every one I've been grateful, find the value. People call me back later and say, "Oh, it's changed your life, it's saved marriage." I've done it for some couples who were thinking about divorce because they were not aware.
Yeah.
They were not aware. And when they see black and white and they see their differences and their similarities, and now they can adjust and adapt to one another more effectively. And one of my other concerns in life is people tend to wait until a disaster happens, until something is broken before they try to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Remember John F. Kennedy, one of his famous quotes was, "The best time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining." The best time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining. And if you have a fire going and you just leave it alone without fanning it, without adding more fuel, more logs to the fire, eventually it's going to die. It's going to just die away. You got to fan that fire. We all got that fire in our heart for life. We got to fan it. We got to feed it. We got to stoke it. Kind of deal.
It takes work. It doesn't just do it on its own.
Right. Don't leave it alone. Don't just leave it alone. I did a speech a long time ago, and I used this illustration to tell people that things just don't happen. There's always a cause and effect and a process, and to create impact. And this is true. You might see this yourself. You're driving down the road. You're in traffic, and there's a car in front of you, and there's a bunch of bumper stickers all over the car. Have you seen that guy?
Yeah.
With that person. And so I was driving behind this car, and then I saw this bumper sticker, and this bumper sticker says, "Shit happens." And I started thinking, wait a minute, man. Not even that just doesn't happen. First, you got to eat something. You got to digest it. You got to get the urge to let it out. And then you got to find the right appropriate place to go let it out, unless it's an emergency. And then you got to clean up after you, kind of deal. Things just don't happen, people. Things just don't happen. There's a start. And the earlier we can detect and be aware, what is starting here is not going to end up well. We got to stop it. We got to recalculate it. We got to readjust. We got to change direction, kind of deal. Again, a profile, a social, is like having a road signs for life. You're driving down the road to a strange place. They have signs. They have sharp curve ahead. So
Right.
what do? You have to slow down. Or some people might get speed up, but you got to slow down. Or steep incline ahead, you got to slow down. School zone ahead, flashing lights, traffic lights. Having a profile done on yourself is like having road signs for life.
Right. And I think it kind of gets us to the final point here, which is, that less reaction, that moment that you have to do something, right? And you have a choice whether if you want to fight, flight, or freeze. And the reaction is just to take that path without knowing truly about yourself what that journey is, right? So if you're going to choose that, you need to recalculate. Recalculation is just understanding, pausing that moment and choosing that path you want to take. But for everybody here, I think what's super important and what Lincoln's hitting at is that there is going to be some self-awareness. There's going to be an unconscious moment where you're going to become conscious of like, oh, these are my triggers. You have just become aware of your triggers. Yep. But at the same time, this awareness, is great. And it's half the battle, right? And it's important for you to know exactly what those are and to take action. But there is data and there are things that you can do as an individual to understand how to approach it, to understand who you are from a data perspective. Because the studies that we're talking about, these profiles for social and emotional intelligence that you could do for yourself, helps solidify. It's that roadmap, right? It's like, okay, I'm aware these are my triggers, but now I have this book. Now I have these sense of directions of when something can happen. This is what I'm aware of, and this is what it tells me, and I can tell people this and articulate it in a certain way. And I know, Lincoln, that you do these social and emotional profiles for people. And I know as we close this off, I definitely want to get your final thoughts, but also there's some other things that we're going to talk about as we end this, especially with Lincoln in being able to share this with everybody in a particular manner. Lincoln does this professionally and sells these profiles. He does them, goes over them, and so forth. But Lincoln, I'd love for you to talk more about, what's going on in that world with that social and emotional intelligence profiles that you're doing and what you got for the people today.
Well, the process is you email me and let me know. I like to have my profile done, my social emotional intelligence profile done. I'll send you a link. Oh, and by the way, if you are on this call today and you're on Live with Wise today, you get a special discount, a big discount. So I'll let you know what that discount is when you call me, because I don't want to get in trouble with the executive director of the association. But this program is validated by one of the top validation companies of the world. The company named Nelson Consulting LLC. You can look them up. It's also endorsed by the International Coaching Federation. So it's an all-inclusive tool. It's not a one-size-fits-all. Now, the thing about these things, unless you have a coach to guide you along the way to how to interpret the report, how to use the report, because each of the 26 components will give you a description of how people behave who are strong in this component. It will also give you a description of how people who behave who are weak in this component. And for every component, you get development tips. So the process is you call me, you email me, I send you the link, you pay for the process. I develop your report. I schedule a 90-minute deep dive debrief, one-on-one with you with your report. And then I send you a self-development template. And 30 days later, we meet again to recalculate how you're doing and answer any questions you may have. In the meantime, people who I work with, I'm available to them all the time. So that's the process in a nutshell. People can go to my website and look at the resources, social services, and look under social emotional intelligence. You will get more information. Or if you want to have a conversation with me, an exploratory conversation, I'm available. Just contact me. I will schedule some time. I also do once a month an introduction to social emotional intelligence webinar, which is free. And you can look out for that. I don't have one scheduled yet, but it's coming up in April. So that in a nutshell is what it's all about. And especially if you are a leader. You know, it bothers me that every pastor I've asked this question. When you went to seminary, what percentage of the curriculum had to do with leadership? So far, I'm getting 0. They learn their leadership skills by observing others and trial and error. People skills, you're dealing with people. Sales people, you're selling to people. Get to know the person first and then get them to trust you, to like you. Then they're going to buy from you.
That's right.
Stop pushing products and services. Start building relationships. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, you're working with people. You need to learn what it means to work with people. And Lincoln, I love what you're doing. And I appreciate.
Matt, permit me to give my final thought here. You, all of you here who are listening in and looking, you are the star in the movie of your life. Make every day an Oscar-winning performance. Thank you.
Lincoln, thank you very much for joining in. Everyone else, thank you for tuning in. Thank you so much. Be sure to catch some updated information. If you have any other questions for Lincoln, hit him up, send him an email. It's going to be all in the chat as well. You can set up communication with him through LinkedIn as well. But Lincoln, again, thank you very much, brother. I really appreciate you being on the show today.
Thank you, Matt. It was a pleasure. It was fun.
Always.
I hope we touched somebody, at least one person today in a positive way.
That's the goal. Y'all take care. Catch you next time.
Bye-bye.